The USS Vanguard moved silently through the darkness of space. Its white hull gleamed under the distant light of Epsilon Eridani, a star not so different from Earth's sun. Captain Daniel Wright stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen where an alien vessel hung against the backdrop of stars. "Any response to our transmission, Officer Martinez?" he asked, his voice calm despite the tension filling the air. Olivia Martinez adjusted her communications earpiece and shook her head. "Nothing yet, Captain. I've sent our first contact package on all frequencies. If they can hear us, they're choosing not to answer." The alien ship was unlike anything humans had encountered before. It resembled a dark blue crystal with wings that seemed to fold and unfold in a rhythm no one could understand. The crew of the Vanguard had been tracking it for 3 days since entering this system. Lieutenant Gregory Nash approached the captain's chair with a tablet in his hand. His face showed concern. "Captain, I've been analyzing their movement patterns," Nash said. "There's something not right about how they're positioning themselves. It looks like hunting behavior I've seen in predatory species." Captain Wright frowned. "Are you sure? Could it be a defensive formation?" "Possibly," Nash admitted. "But my instincts say no. They're circling us, testing our reactions." The captain nodded slowly. First contact situations were always dangerous. In the century since, humans had left Earth's solar system. They had met 6 alien species. Most encounters had been peaceful if awkward. 2 had been tense but resolved through careful diplomacy. None had turned violent. "Keep our posture non-aggressive," Wright ordered. "Weapons remain powered down, shields at minimum, just enough to handle space debris." The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Science Officer Samantha Powell entered from the elevator, her eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, I've completed my analysis of their ship design," she said. "Their technology is at least a century ahead of ours in some areas, particularly in material science. But their weapon systems appear to be comparable to our own." Wright gestured for her to continue. "I believe they call themselves the Tarathi, based on patterns in their energy emissions. They seem to use crystalline computing systems rather than our quantum processors. Is there any way to improve our chances of communication?" Wright asked. Powell nodded. "I'd like to take a shuttle closer to their ship. Our sensors can get better readings at a shorter distance, and maybe they'll recognize a smaller vessel as less threatening." The captain considered this. It was risky, but Powell was right. They needed more information. "Approved, but take a security team. Martinez, you go too. Your linguistic algorithms might pick up something our ship's systems are missing." An hour later, Powell and Martinez sat in the shuttle with 2 security officers. They moved slowly toward the alien vessel, broadcasting greetings and peaceful intentions. Back on the Vanguard, Nash watched the sensor readings with growing alarm. "Captain, their ship is changing its energy signature. I think they're—" He didn't finish before a bright beam shot from the alien vessel, striking the shuttle. The smaller craft spun wildly, its engines disabled. "Red alert!" Wright shouted. "Get that shuttle back now." The bridge erupted into activity. The weapons officer powered up the defensive systems, but Wright held up his hand. "No firing unless fired upon directly. We don't know if this is a misunderstanding." The communications system crackled to life. Martinez's voice came through, filled with static. "Captain, they've locked onto us with some kind of beam. We're being pulled toward their ship. Our engines are dead." "Hang on," Wright said. "We're coming for you." The Vanguard moved forward, but the alien ship released another energy burst, this one striking the larger human vessel. Systems flickered across the bridge. "Shields down to 40%, reported the tactical officer. That was no warning shot. Wright made a quick decision. Target their propulsion system. Minimal power, just enough to stop them from taking our people. The Vanguard fired. The shot connected, but the alien ship barely seemed affected. Instead, it released a swarm of smaller craft that headed directly for the human vessel. "They're launching fighters," Nash said. "At least 20 of them." Wright knew they were outmatched. "Get me visual on the shuttle." The screen showed the small craft being drawn into an opening in the alien ship's side. Security footage from inside the shuttle showed Powell and the others trying to seal the inner doors. Has something cut through the outer hull? We need to retreat, the first officer said quietly. We can't win this fight. Wright stared at the screen, watching as alien figures entered the shuttle. The security officers fired their weapons but were quickly overwhelmed. Martinez fell next, some kind of energy net wrapping around her body. Powell was the last one standing. She backed away, hands raised in a universal gesture of surrender. She spoke directly to the aliens, her words clear over the comm system. We come in peace. We mean no harm. Please, let's talk. The aliens did not respond. One of them, taller than the others with skin like blue diamond, stepped forward and studied Powell. It made a sound like breaking glass, and the others grabbed the humans. Captain, we're losing hull integrity on decks 5 through 8, reported an officer. Their weapons are cutting through us. Wright slammed his fist on the arm of his chair. Maximum speed, get us out of their range, and keep the channel to the shuttle open. The Vanguard turned and accelerated away from the battle. On screen, they could see Powell being separated from the others. Captain Wright, she said, her voice remarkably steady. They're taking us deeper into their ship. I'll try to learn what I can. We'll come back for you, Wright promised. All of you. The next few minutes were the longest of Wright's life. They listened as Powell described what she saw, providing valuable intelligence even as she was led through the alien vessel. Then her voice changed. They've put me in some kind of chamber. They're removing my suit. The air here is breathable but thin. Temperature about 15 degrees Celsius. A pause. They're scanning me. I think they're curious about human biology. I'm trying to communicate that we... Her words cut off with a gasp. No, wait. What are you doing? That's my life support monitor. Don't... The crew of the Vanguard listened in horror as Powell's breathing became labored. They've disabled my emergency oxygen. They're watching me. I think they want to see how humans die. Wright had gone pale. Turn the ship around. Now. Captain, we can't, the first officer said. Their fighters are still pursuing. We wouldn't make it. On the comm, Powell's voice grew weaker. Tell my parents I love them. And tell Earth. Tell them these beings don't understand. They don't see us as equals. They see us as specimens. Her last words came as barely a whisper. Don't let them forget what they did here today. Then there was only silence. Captain Wright stood motionless on the bridge. When he finally spoke, his voice was ice. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. The stars stretched into lines as the Vanguard jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying news of humanity's first casualty in an unexpected war, and the promise that Samantha Powell's death would never be forgotten. 3 months passed since the USS Vanguard returned to Earth with news of Samantha Powell's death. The recording of her final moments had spread across every human settlement from Earth to the outer colonies. Her face became known to billions. Her last words echoed in the minds of leaders and ordinary citizens alike. Admiral Catherine Barnes stood at the window of her office in the Space Command headquarters. Earth gleamed blue and green below the orbital station. She turned as the door opened and 5 people entered the room. Thank you all for coming, she said. Please sit down. The group took their seats at the large table. Captain Daniel Wright from the Vanguard looked thinner than when he had left on the mission. Beside him sat Commander Jack Donovan, a military strategist whose normally cheerful face now showed only determination. Dr. Elizabeth Winters, the top xenolinguist in the solar system, opened her tablet and began taking notes. Lieutenant Alan Carter, an intelligence officer known for understanding how alien minds worked, sat quietly with his hands folded. Chief Engineer Patricia Rodriguez, whose weapons designs had protected human ships for a decade, was the last to sit down. I've chosen each of you for a specific reason, Admiral Barnes said. What happened to Samantha Powell cannot go unanswered, but our response must be smart, not just angry. She pressed a button, and a hologram of the Tarathi ship appeared above the table. For 3 months, we've gathered all available information on the Tarathi. Dr. Winters, tell us what you've learned about their communication. Dr. Winters stood up. The Tarathi language is based on crystalline vibrations. We've made some progress translating it. They appear to have a society built around dominance. Their words for peace and surrender are the same. They don't seem to have a concept of mutual respect between different species. That matches what we've found, said Lieutenant Carter. From studying their behavior, we believe the Tarathi evolved as apex predators on their home world. They see other intelligent life as competition to be eliminated or controlled. Commander Donovan leaned forward. So they killed Powell to send a message, to show dominance. Yes, said Carter. And they likely expected us to either attack immediately or run away permanently. Our continued observation of their territory probably confuses them. Admiral Barnes nodded. 2 days ago, we received a transmission from what we believe is their leadership. Dr. Winters? The xenolinguist played the message. The alien voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with breaking glass. The computer translation followed. Humans. Of Earth space. The removal of your explorer was regrettable but necessary. You entered territory claimed by the Tarathi Dominion. The specimen provided valuable biological data. We consider this matter concluded. Further incursions will result in similar consequences. The room fell silent for a moment. Captain Wright's hands tightened into fists. They called her a specimen, he said quietly. Not even a person. Admiral Barnes turned to Chief Engineer Rodriguez. What are our military options? Rodriguez sighed. We could launch an attack. Our fleet is larger than what we've observed of theirs, but their technology is advanced in ways we don't fully understand. We would win, but at a terrible cost. And that assumes they don't have allies we haven't met yet, added Carter. Commander Donovan stood up and walked to the hologram. He studied the alien ship design. Admiral, I don't think a direct military response is our best option. At least, not yet. What do you suggest? Barnes asked. Powell was my friend, Donovan said. We trained together. She believed in understanding other species, not fighting them. But she also believed in justice. He looked around at the others. The Tarathi think this is over. They think we'll either attack now or accept what happened. They don't understand. Humans. Dr. Winters nodded slowly. They have no concept of patience as we do. Their history shows immediate response to threats. Exactly, said Donovan. So we show them something they've never seen before. Not forgiveness. Not blind revenge. But a patient, deliberate response that makes clear one message: humans never forget. Across the city from the Space Command headquarters, Richard and Diane Powell sat in their living room. Pictures of their daughter Samantha covered the walls. Her smiling face in a graduation cap. Her first day aboard a starship. Her receiving her science officer insignia. A knock came at the door. Richard opened it to find Admiral Barnes standing there. May I come in? She asked gently. The Powells welcomed her inside and offered her tea. They sat together, these parents who had lost their only child to aliens, who saw her as nothing more than a specimen. We're finalizing our response to the Tarathi, Barnes told them. I wanted to hear your thoughts. Diane Powell's hands trembled slightly as she held her cup. Every parent teaches their child to forgive. But how do we forgive this? They watched her die. They studied it. Richard put his arm around his wife. We don't want war, Admiral. Samantha wouldn't want that. But we do want justice. What kind of justice? Barnes asked. The kind that ensures they never do this to another human, Richard said firmly. The kind that makes them understand what they took from us. Not just our daughter, but our future. The grandchildren we'll never have. The discoveries she would have made. Diane wiped a tear from her eye. Make them understand that a human life isn't just biology. It's dreams and love and potential. Make them understand what they stole. Back in the meeting room, Commander Donovan outlined his plan. It wasn't a single battle, but a campaign. Not a quick revenge, but a long memory. We call it Operation Long Memory, he explained. We build specialized ships. We map their territory completely. We document every violation they commit against our people or others. We disrupt their trading, their politics, their sense of security, not through open war, but through persistent presence. For how long? Asked Captain Wright. As long as it takes, Donovan replied. Until they understand what it means to take a human life. Admiral Barnes studied the plan carefully. It would require resources, patience, and resolve. It would mean years, not days or weeks. This won't be easy, she said. The public wants action now. Political leaders want quick results. Then we remind them of Powell's last words, Donovan said. She asked us not to let the Tarathi forget. This plan ensures they never will. As the meeting ended, Lieutenant Carter approached Donovan privately. This connection to Powell, he said quietly. It's more than just training together, isn't it? Donovan looked at the hologram of the Tarathi ship, still floating above the table. We were going to be married when she returned from the mission. He turned off the hologram. The alien ship vanished, but the memory of what they had done remained. The Tarathi need to learn, Donovan said. Humans remember, humans grieve, and humans never ever forget a debt of justice. 1 year passed since the death of Samantha Powell. Earth and its colonies had mourned, then gotten to work. In the large shipyard orbiting Mars, 3 vessels neared completion. They looked unlike any ships humans had built before. Their hulls were dark, designed to absorb rather than reflect light. Their shapes were smooth with few obvious weapons or sensors visible to outside observers. Commander Jack Donovan, now promoted to captain, stood at the viewing window of the Mars Control Center. Beside him, Admiral Barnes studied the 3 ships. Are they ready? She asked. Almost, Donovan replied. Engineers are installing the final stealth systems this week. We can launch in 10 days. The largest ship was named USS Nemesis. It would serve as the command vessel for Operation Long Memory. The second, USS Remembrance, was built for research and monitoring. The third, USS Retribution, was designed for protection and, if necessary, military action. The crews are ready too, Donovan continued. All volunteers. All people who understand this isn't a quick mission. We could be out there for years. Barnes nodded slowly. The President has approved the full plan. The public still doesn't know all the details, but they support the mission. Powell's parents gave a powerful speech last month. It helped everyone understand what we're fighting for. In a lab aboard the space station, Dr. Elizabeth Winters worked with a team of linguists and cultural experts. She looked up from her computer as Captain Donovan entered. I've been studying everything we know about Tarathi communication, she said. I think I've found something important. Donovan sat across from her. What is it? Their language has no word for forgiveness, she explained, not just toward other species but even among themselves. They understand power, dominance, and submission, but the concept of reconciliation after wrongdoing doesn't exist for them. So they don't expect us to forgive what they did to Powell, Donovan said. No, Winters agreed, but they also don't understand persistence over time. Their conflicts are always immediate and decisive. They either win or lose quickly. The idea of humans remembering and seeking justice years later doesn't fit their worldview. Donovan smiled for the first time in months. Then we'll show them something new. On the engineering deck of the USS Nemesis, Chief Engineer Patricia Rodriguez worked on the final calibrations of the ship's special systems. Lieutenant Alan Carter watched her work. These aren't typical weapons, he observed. Rodriguez tightened a connection on the panel. Because this isn't a typical war, these systems can disable Tarathi technology without destroying their ships. We can cut off their communications, disrupt their navigation, even prevent their weapons from firing. Non-lethal but effective, Carter said. Exactly. We're not here to kill them. We're here to make them understand what they did. She closed the panel. Besides, the best weapon we have isn't on any of these ships. What's that? Human memory, she said. We don't forget. 10 days later, the 3 ships departed from Mars. Their mission officially began. The small fleet traveled to the edge of human space, then beyond. They moved carefully, using the new stealth technology to avoid detection. It took 2 months to reach the area where the USS Vanguard had first encountered the Tarathi. On the E-tier bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Donovan addressed the combined crews via video link. "Today we begin the real work of Operation Long Memory," he said. "Our mission has 3 phases. First, we map all Tarathi territory and monitor their movements. Second, we document any aggressive actions they take against us or other species. Third, we implement our response plan." The crews listened carefully. Many had known Samantha Powell personally. Others had watched her final moments in the recording that had been shared across human space. All understood the importance of their mission. "We are not here for revenge," Donovan continued. "We are here for justice. The Tarathi must learn that taking a human life has consequences, not just today or tomorrow, but for as long as it takes them to understand." The ships separated, each heading to different positions around Tarathi space. The Remembrance began its detailed scans of their territory. The Retribution established a patrol pattern to protect the other vessels, and the Nemesis moved deeper into alien space, carefully avoiding detection. For the next 3 months, they watched and learned. They discovered that the Tarathi had a dozen settled worlds and many more outposts. They observed Tarathi ships interacting with 2 other alien species, both of which seemed to fear them. They recorded instances of Tarathi aggression against these species. On the Nemesis, Dr. Winters studied all this information. "They're bullies," she told Donovan during a briefing. "They demand resources from weaker species. When they meet resistance, they respond with force. These other aliens give in because they don't have the strength to fight back." "What would happen if the Tarathi suddenly found their technology didn't work?" asked Carter. Rodriguez smiled. "Their ships would be stranded, their weapons useless. They'd be vulnerable for the first time." "And if this happened repeatedly over months or years?" Donovan asked. "They'd become paranoid," said Carter. "They'd start to question their superiority. They might even become cautious about attacking others." Donovan nodded. "That's phase 3 of our plan. But first, we need more information." The Remembrance discovered a small Tarathi colony world near the edge of their territory. Scans showed it was lightly defended. Captain Donovan authorized a closer look. The Nemesis moved into position, using its stealth systems to approach undetected. What they found shocked even the experienced crew. The Tarathi had captured members of another alien species. These creatures, with 6 limbs and silver skin, were being held in research facilities. Scanning technology revealed they were being subjected to tests similar to what had happened to Powell. "They're doing it again," Rodriguez whispered as they viewed the images. "Treating sentient beings like specimens." Donovan's face hardened. "Now we know. This isn't just about Powell. It's their standard approach to other life forms." He turned to his officers. "Prepare for our first direct action. We're going to disable the defense systems around that facility and free those prisoners. The Tarathi will know someone interfered," warned Carter. "Good," said Donovan. "But they won't know who. Not yet. This is just the beginning." As the Nemesis prepared for its first mission, Donovan looked at the small picture of Samantha Powell he kept on his console. He touched it gently. "They're about to learn the first lesson," he said quietly. "Humans notice what others ignore. We help those who cannot help themselves. And we never ever forget a promise of justice." The Nemesis moved silently toward the Tarathi colony, its crew ready to deliver the first of many messages that would take years to complete. Operation Long Memory had truly begun. 3 years had passed since Operation Long Memory began. The 3 human ships had become ghosts that haunted Tarathi space. They appeared and disappeared before the aliens could respond. They left no trail to follow. Yet their presence was felt everywhere. On the bridge of the USS Nemesis, Captain Jack Donovan reviewed the latest reports. His face showed the strain of 3 years in deep space, away from Earth and other humans, but his eyes remained determined. "The Tarathi trade network is down by 60%, Lieutenant Carter said, pointing to a chart on the main screen. "None of their former trading partners trust them anymore. Not since we shared the recordings of their research facilities. And their military? Donovan asked. Stretched thin, Carter replied. They've had to position ships at all their colonies and outposts. They never know where we'll appear next. Dr. Elizabeth Winters entered the bridge. In the past 3 years, she had become the foremost expert on Tarathi psychology and culture. The intercepted communications show their leadership is disturbed, she said. They use terms that indicate confusion and anger. They can't understand why this is happening to them after so much time has passed. Donovan nodded. Good. They're learning that humans have long memories. Chief Engineer Rodriguez joined them, her uniform stained with engine grease. The new countermeasures are ready, Captain. Next time we encounter a Tarathi warship, we can completely shut down their weapons, systems without firing a shot. Not everyone on the ship shared Donovan's certainty about their mission. Later that day in the ship's mess hall, Lieutenant Carter sat with Dr. Winters. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years chasing the aliens who killed one person. Don't. You ever wonder if we've gone too far? Winters sipped her coffee. It's not just about Powell anymore. You've seen what they do to other species. Someone needs to stop them. Yes, but are we the right ones to do it? We're becoming obsessed. The crew barely talks about going home anymore. It's like we've forgotten everything except making the Tarathi pay. Donovan hasn't forgotten, Winters said. He remembers the real purpose every day. Carter shook his head. That's what worries me. His connection to Powell drives him. But where does it end? When will he say it's enough? Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's alert system. All crew reported to their stations. The USS Retribution had detected a Tarathi vessel approaching a small moon where a peaceful species called the Veth had established a mining colony. Previous pattern suggests they're planning to demand resources, Carter said as they analyzed the situation. Donovan made a quick decision. Move Nemesis into position. We'll disable their ship before they can threaten the Veth. The Nemesis slipped into position behind the Tarathi vessel. Rodriguez activated her specialized technology. The alien ship suddenly went dark, its engines and weapons shutting down simultaneously. Perfect, Donovan said. Now send the message. Winters opened a channel to the Tarathi ship. She spoke in their language, the harsh sounds uncomfortable for human vocal cords. Your actions have consequences. Your treatment of other species has been documented. This is a warning. The Tarathi ship floated powerless. After 1 hour, Rodriguez restored minimal power to their life support and engines, just enough for them to limp home. That's the 4th Tarathi ship we've disabled this month, Donovan said. They must be getting desperate. His prediction proved correct. 2 weeks later, as the Nemesis observed a Tarathi outpost, they received an unexpected message. Humans of Earth vessels, the translation read. The Tarathi High Council request communication. We wish to discuss the human called Powell. The bridge crew looked at each other in surprise. For 3 years, the Tarathi had never acknowledged what they had done. It could be a trap, warned Carter. Probably, Donovan agreed. But we'll meet them anyway. Prepare the Nemesis for direct contact. Rodriguez raised her eyebrows. You're not seriously considering dropping our stealth, are you? That's exactly what I'm going to do, Donovan said. But first we call in the Remembrance and Retribution. If this is a trap, we'll be ready. 3 days later, the 3 human ships appeared openly at the designated meeting point. A large Tarathi vessel approached. It had more weapons than any alien ship they had previously encountered. They've built this specifically to fight us, Rodriguez observed. A communication came through. The voice was the same crystalline sound they had heard before, but now Dr. Winters understood their language much better. We will discuss the Powell incident, the Tarathi representative said. Our ship will dock with yours for direct communication. Carter shook his head. Definitely a trap. Donovan agreed but saw an opportunity. We'll allow a single Tarathi representative to board the Nemesis. Heavy security protocols. The docking procedure went as planned. 4 armed guards escorted the Tarathi delegate to the conference room. The alien was taller than a human, with skin like blue diamond and eyes that shifted colors as it moved. Captain Donovan, Dr. Winters, and Lieutenant Carter waited there. The alien spoke, its voice translated by Winters' equipment. This continued interference in Tarathi affairs must end. It has been 3 of your years since the minor incident with the human explorer. Minor incident? Donovan repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. The specimen provided valuable data, the Tarathi continued. We do not understand why this warrants such persistent action by your species. Winters watched Donovan carefully, concerned about his reaction. But the captain remained controlled. You call it a minor incident, Donovan said. We call it murder. You took a human life. The Tarathi's skin color shifted to a deeper blue. Many species lose members, it is the way of space. The strong survive, the weak provide data. Suddenly the ship rocked violently. Alarms blared throughout the Nemesis. The Tarathi ship is firing on us. Rodriguez's voice came through the comm. System. They launched fighters while we were talking. Carter drew his weapon and pointed it at the alien delegate. This was a distraction. No, Winters said, studying the Tarathi's reaction. I don't think their representative knew about the attack. Look at its color change. The alien's skin had turned almost white, a reaction they had never seen before. Rodriguez's voice came through again. Our shields are holding. Retribution is engaging their fighters. Should we return fire? Negative, Donovan said. Use the countermeasures instead. Minutes later, the Tarathi attack faltered as their weapon systems shut down one by one. Their fighters drifted powerless in space. Donovan turned to the alien delegate. Now you will listen. You're coming with us to see something. They escorted the Tarathi to a special room on the Nemesis. Inside was a complete record of Samantha Powell's life, her childhood on Earth, her education, her scientific achievements, her family and friends, and finally, the recording of her death at Tarathi hands. This is why we don't forget, Donovan said as the alien watched in silence. This is why 3 years later we're still here, and we'll be here for 30 more if necessary. The Tarathi delegate's color slowly changed again, this time to a deep purple they had never observed before. You remember one life for this long? It asked, genuine confusion in its translated voice. Every human life matters to us, Winters explained. That's what you failed to understand. For the first time in 3 years, the humans saw something new in a Tarathi response. Uncertainty. 5 years had passed since Samantha Powell died at the hands of the Tarathi. The 3 human ships of Operation Long Memory had become legends not only to the Tarathi, but to other species across this sector of space. Stories spread about the persistent humans who appeared without warning, disabled Tarathi ships, freed their captives, and shared evidence of their cruelty. The Tarathi Empire was no longer feared. Their trading partners had abandoned them. Their military vessels hesitated to leave their home systems. For the first time in their history, the Tarathi faced a problem they could not solve with force or intimidation. On the USS Nemesis, Captain Jack Donovan looked older than his years. The mission had taken its toll on everyone, but when the message arrived from Tarathi Central Command, he felt a spark of hope for the first time in years. They're requesting peace talks, he told his officers as they gathered in the conference room. Not just with our ships, but with official representatives from Earth. Is it another trap? Asked Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Their last encounter had nearly ended in disaster. I don't think so, said Dr. Winters. Something has changed in their communications over the past 6 months. The language is different, less aggressive. They're using terms I've never seen before. Lieutenant Carter studied the message. They specifically mention Powell by name. They want to discuss the human Powell incident and find resolution. Donovan looked around at his crew. They had been in space for 5 years, far from home, driven by a promise of justice. Contact Earth, tell them it's time for the final phase. 1 month later, a diplomatic vessel from Earth arrived at the edge of Tarathi space. Admiral Barnes herself had come, along with Richard and Diane Powell, Samantha's parents. The Nemesis, Remembrance, and Retribution escorted them to the meeting location. The Tarathi had chosen a neutral space station built by a peaceful trading species. As the humans docked their ships, they saw that the main Tarathi vessel looked different from the others they had encountered. Its crystal-like surface showed colors they had never seen on Tarathi ships before. Admiral Barnes met with Captain Donovan before the negotiations began. "You look tired, Jack," she said. 5 years is a long time, he admitted. But we kept our promise. They understand now that humans never forget. Are you ready to face them across a table instead of across space? Donovan nodded. I've been ready for 5 years. The meeting room was large, with windows looking out into space. The humans sat on one side. Admiral Barnes, Captain Donovan, Dr. Winters, Lieutenant Carter, Chief Engineer Rodriguez, and Samantha's parents. On the other side sat 5 Tarathi. 4 had the blue diamond skin they had seen before. But the 5th was different, with purple skin that seemed to glow from within. This purple Tarathi spoke first. The translation came through the system Dr. Winters had perfected over the years. I am Krithal, new leader of the Tarathi Council. We have requested this meeting to discuss what we now understand was a grave error. The death of the human Powell was not a minor incident, as we once claimed. It was the taking of a sentient life, an act we now recognize as wrong. Admiral Barnes responded carefully. Your understanding has been expensive. It cost us a valued officer. It cost you 5 years of continuous pressure from our ships. Yes, Krithal agreed. We did not understand your species. We believed that, after time passed, you would forget as other species do. We did not know that humans remember their dead. We did not know that you value each life so deeply. Richard Powell spoke, his voice steady despite the emotion behind it. Our daughter was a scientist. She wanted to understand alien life. She would have treated your people with respect, even after what you did. That was who she was. The purple Tarathi's skin pulsed with light. We have viewed the records of her life that were shared with our representative. We have seen her achievements, her connections to other humans. We did not know that taking one life could cause such lasting impact. Now you know, Diane Powell said. Every human life matters. Each one is a universe of connections and possibilities. For 3 days, the humans and Tarathi negotiated. The terms were clear. The Tarathi would acknowledge their responsibility for Powell's death, provide compensation to her family, establish clear boundaries between their territories, and most importantly, change how they treated other species. Onigar. The final day, Krithal requested to speak privately with Captain Donovan. They stood by the windows looking out at the stars and the ships beyond. You pursued us for 5 years because of one death, the Tarathi leader said. My people still struggle to understand this focus. It's who we are, Donovan explained. Throughout human history, we've remembered our dead. We tell their stories, we honor their sacrifices. We seek justice when they're harmed. And now? Is justice achieved? Donovan considered the question carefully. Justice isn't just punishment. It's change. If your people truly understand what you did and never do it again to any species, then, yes, justice will be achieved. There is something else I wish to ask, Krithal said. We have studied your transmissions over these years. You have a thing called a memorial. Can you explain this concept? 6 months later, on Earth, a new building stood on the grounds of the Space Exploration Academy. Its design incorporated both human and Tarathi elements, clean human lines with crystal-like features that caught the light. Above the entrance, the words, Powell Institute for Xenological Studies, gleamed in the sunlight. Hundreds of people gathered for the opening ceremony. Captain Donovan, now returned to Earth after 5 years in space, stood with Admiral Barnes, Dr. Winters, Lieutenant Carter, and Chief Engineer Rodriguez. They had all been changed by their long mission, but they had kept their promise. Richard and Diane Powell cut the ribbon to open the institute. Behind them stood Krithal and 2 other Tarathi representatives, the first ever to visit Earth. The crowd fell silent as Richard Powell spoke. Our daughter dreamed of understanding alien life. Today, that dream lives on. This institute will train scientists to study alien cultures with respect and care. It will teach alien visitors about humans. And it will stand as a reminder that every life, human or alien, matters deeply. Captain Daniel Wright of the USS Vanguard, who had witnessed Powell's final moments 5 years ago, stood beside Donovan. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" Wright asked quietly. "Not with war, but with understanding?" "No," Donovan admitted, "but she would have preferred this ending." As the ceremony concluded, Krithal approached the Powells. The aliens' purple skin glowed softly as it presented them with a crystal sculpture, a Tarathi symbol of remembrance. "We have learned from humans," Krithal said. "We have learned to remember. We have learned that taking a life is not a simple act. We will not forget Samantha Powell, just as you have not forgotten." Diane Powell accepted the crystal. "That's the most human thing you could say." The institute opened its doors, welcoming the first class of human and alien students. They would study together, learn from each other, and ensure that what happened to Samantha Powell never happened again, not because of fear, but because of understanding. Operation Long Memory had accomplished its mission. The Tarathi had learned what happens when they take a human life. They had discovered that humans never forgive, never forget, and sometimes that leads not to endless vengeance, but to profound change.